One. Hey everybody, and welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is a creative parenting expert, a theater director, public speaker, and her name is Nina Meehan. Hey, Nina. We're going to talk with her about what it's like to play for a living. You can find her at creativeparenting.net. You can find Playful Humans at playfulhumans.com. There's a free play community. You can also subscribe to the podcast, the videos, all of that good stuff, playfulhumans.com. And check out Nina on Instagram, Nina Meehan, or Creative Parenting on Instagram. Always a good follow as well. Here we go. Let's do it. Nina, welcome to the podcast. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week is brought to you by Velcro. Don't buy anything made of Velcro. It's a total ripoff. All right. I have a horse joke. Do you know where horses live?
Where do horses live?
In neighborhoods.
So I have a really amazing horse joke that my 4-year-old made up. She loves to make up jokes, so they don't make any sense to anyone but her, but she thinks they're hysterical. Okay, you ready? Yeah. What did the horse say to the cow?
I don't know.
You can't neigh like me. 4-year-old world, that was hysterical.
Probably can't neigh. Yeah. So pass those along to the people in single digits in your life. Hopefully they enjoy those. But now let's talk about the adults here, because Playful Humans is to inspire adults to have more fun, be more creative, be more playful in their life. And I love what you're doing with creative parenting. So what does that mean? How did you get into it? Let's just start there.
So creative parenting is a mindset. It's a way of thinking about your family and bringing up your kids with creativity and creative play specifically at the base of what you're doing. So it's not, about being a brilliant painter or a perfect violinist. It's about a way of looking at the world and specifically interacting with your kids that just brings that energy of play and joy to the forefront, even in the harder times. And I got into it because I've been playing my whole career and I've got 3 kids and, they all connected.
Well, when you said creative parenting, to me, I thought that it really makes a lot of sense. Much of what you're doing as a parent is creative. Now, some people might just call it lying to your children too, but finding creative ways to solve problems and keep them happy and healthy is really what it's all about, because there's no right answers really here, right? Everybody's situation is so different that you're going to have to be a creative problem solver as a parent. You agree?
Exactly. I mean, I think, as a parent, and I think just as adults in general, we get really attached to control. We really want to control the outcome. So when you're thinking about raising kids, you're like, oh yes, I know that, these are the things that my kid's going to do. And it becomes really tense really quickly. And that can be on the micro level, like, why aren't they listening to me when I'm asking them to come to the table for dinner? Or the macro level of, why isn't my kid going to, go to Harvard and get 5 PhDs, right? So there's all these different levels of it. And what a creative parenting and creative play mindset allows for is to let go of that control. Because in a creative process, you do not know what the outcome is going to be, no matter how much you want to.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if you have some good examples. The first thing that came to mind for me when you were talking about the table is doing the airplane thing with the spoon or whatever, like making it fun to kind of distract them from what's going on and get them to eat their vegetables. It'd be a creative way of parenting, right? Do you have any examples for you maybe that are the more sophisticated ones or ones that you've just found are really great hacks and tips for parents? Because I'm sure they would love anything to get them to go to sleep, brush their teeth, take a bath, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's interesting you use the example of like the airplane. I think parents, we are much more willing and able to play when our kids are babies and toddlers. And then as they get a little bit older, and I'm not talking a lot older, but a little bit older, we sort of shut that part of ourselves down more and more. And so what I'm thinking about is, times, so just using a dinner table example, how can you keep dinner table time enjoyable? Like, my kids love to ask to be excused. They eat like 3 bites and then they want to go, right? So how do you keep it going? Well, you can use story. So one of my favorite games right now that's just silly and fun is you open the door by saying, hey, by the way, today I went to go get a loaf of bread and the craziest thing happened. What do you think happened? And you make it a game. Who can come up with the craziest thing that could have happened on the way to get the bread today? So, or for bedtime, I talk a lot about like different kinds of dance parties. Everybody loves a dance party, but again, we forget because we get into there are all these websites that tell us this is how you do a bedtime routine. Well, some kids, they just need to move before bed. They need to get those oogies out. So finding 3 different songs, like one that's like crazy up tempo that you're just like crashing around the house with your kid, and then one that's kind of in the middle, and then one that you're like chilling out and zen. These are not hard, complicated things. I mean, I think the most, if I say nothing else today, it's that adding creativity into parenting can be in little, small, fun increments. The key is we have to remember to do it. And that's where so many adults get blocked because we don't think of ourselves as creative. We don't think of play. We've like blocked that whole part of ourselves.
I totally appreciate everything you just said. And that's exactly my mission with Playful Humans, is because even for yourself, people don't just take a few minutes to think about how to make your next presentation a little more fun or creative or playful, or just take 30 minutes out of your day. It seems crazy that we don't spend 30 minutes a day just enjoying our life, right? Go play with the kids, go play with yourself, and have fun and get outside. And I think it is weird that we have to remember to just take a second. I do a lot of public speaking, and I coach people on that or on podcasting, and they'll say like, well, how did you come up with these things? Well, you just sit down for like 5 minutes and you go, what would make this fun? Or what's a theme for this speech, or something that would, make it more interesting. And so you're right there. I guess, is there, a good trigger? Is it when you're getting anxious and you feel like, you want to yell or scream, that you just go, call a timeout? How could I change the mood here, for these kids without being escalating in that sense? Is that what it is for you, or when do these moments hit you?
So, I mean, I think that the like, how do I stop yelling at my kids? Is like such a recurring theme, because it doesn't feel good for you or your kids. So like nobody's getting what they want, right? Because like you may have something that you need to get done, right? I need you to put on your shoes, whatever it is. I need you to clean up your room. But if you're going about it in a language that is not a child's language, they're not going to hear or listen. A child's language is play and imagination. So if we're using adult language of, I need to leave the house because I have an appointment in 10 minutes. And if you're not ready, I'm going to be late. I mean, you might as well be speaking Swahili to your child, unless your child speaks Swahili, of course, because those words aren't their language. So what I love to think about in terms of connecting with that moment of like, because you're exactly right. It is in those moments of tension that you want to be like, okay, take that deep breath. What do I have in my back pocket? Okay, here's a tool I can use. Am I talking to my child in a way that makes me feel good, that makes them feel good, and that they can understand? And this is to be clear. I'm not condoning talking down to a child ever. I'm talking about using the most sophisticated language you possibly can to communicate in a way that gets them excited. Because if they're excited, they're going to want to do whatever it is. So, just a small example, right? So you've got your kid, you got to get out of the house. You need them to put their shoes on, that you can make into a game.
Yeah, make it into a race. I was going to say, you have
right?
3 kids, you can put it on. Yeah, that's easy. Yeah.
Who can put it on faster? You can make an imagination game. If you don't get your shoes on, you'll never be able to leave the house because there's a lava pit that just came into the living room. What do we do? Get those shoes on, right? Like, there's so many different ways that if you just kind of use story, imagination, games, you can use a song. Just anytime your kid hears this song, like Blue Suede Shoes, it means they put on their shoes. No yelling. You get a little song. They get some shoes.
Yeah, I like that. I was really thinking about that race because we do that a lot with kids, but we did that a lot growing up too, right? I had a brother and a sister, and it's like, you want them to do something like, hey, I'll time you. See how fast you can run this back to my bedroom or whatever. Grab my pillow and come back. I'll time you. And that it almost always works, right?
It does. It does almost always work, and it's because it's connecting back to games, and that one of the things that I think is so helpful for parents to think about exactly what you just talked about. Like, what did you do as a kid? I bet you coached this as well, right? Like, how did you play? So one of my questions is always, what did you do that was creative when you were a kid? Were you a kid who like really like just loved to get out those markers and like draw a ton? Were you the kid outside climbing the tree and like figuring out how to build the tree house? Like, who were you? Because that play language is going to be your play language as an adult also.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And it reminds me a lot to kind of like find your thing, but also find your kids' thing. I have 7 nieces and 1 nephew and no kids. But they're all a little bit different, right? Some of them like to pretend and do make believe and do the dolls, and other ones like to get outside and play sports and play with any type of game or activity. And other ones are artistic and love to draw and do things like that, or play video games or do Lego that's more like focused and introverted. And so I think it's important, like you said, to discover what you enjoy. That's great, but also not be like so rigid and stuck, right? That there's only one way we can play and have fun. And I see parents do that a lot, and it cracks me up, right? Where they're like, have fun and don't make a mess and don't do this and don't break the rules and don't yell. And you're like, oh, so you meant no fun is what you meant there by have fun, right?
Yeah, there's a difference between, saying to a child, this is how we're going to play today. And, putting out a like this perfect Pinterest craft project that you're like so excited to make. That's great. And it's wonderful, but it isn't open-ended. It isn't necessarily coming from a place of play. It's coming from a family activity. That's great.
Right.
But like, there's a difference between that and here's a bunch of paint and some glitter and 5 empty paper towel rolls. What can we make? Because then the world is open. Anything is possible. And I love what you're saying about different kids and different adults have different modalities that come to them naturally. So, there's story, there's movement, there's music, there's games, there's visual art, there's so many different things. And if we know what our comfort zone is, that's a really good way to get over that like, feeling of like, can I do this? Can I take this risk? And then from there, you can take baby steps in lots of different directions. Like, I know, my 5-year-old totally loves art. She just adores it. My 9-year-old, imagination, like give him a story any day. My 12-year-old, he is like the game kid. So I have to adjust. As we do every day, all day with all the people around us, but getting over that initial hump of I can play, sometimes it just helps to tap into what's comfortable for you and then branch out.
And that brings me to you, because I think it's a nice segue to ask about your play history. And I'm assuming there's a lot of stuff around theater in there based on what you did for a career. So what would you say was play for you as a kid? And then you mentioned your playful career already. How did that translate? Was there a moment where you went and got a real job and then said, nope, I got to go play? Or did you always just naturally kind of flow into it?
So my language of play as a kid was imagination. I could spend hours and hours and hours in my own imagination games with friends, without friends, didn't matter. I had imaginary pet monkeys. I had imaginary miniature Shetland ponies who all talked and hung out with me. And it was awesome. I had all these friends all the time. So that was definitely my childhood. And then I discovered theater, because yes, theater is a big part of my journey, through school. And, you know, as early as like second grade was my first play. And I discovered that I could get on stage and it was fun and people laughed and reacted and I could put on a costume and become someone else. And I would say, you know, sort of I've never lost play as a through line for me.
Awesome.
In college, I was studying theater with an emphasis in education and creative drama and storytelling. I got out into the real world and I was doing all sorts of different kinds of acting jobs and arts education jobs, almost always having to going back to how can I have fun? Where are the kids that I can play with? Because kids love to play in a way that adults don't always. And then I started a theater company with 4 friends, and it was a children's theater company. So our entire goal and mission is we have professional adult actors doing shows for family audiences. And so I had the opportunity to create new works and direct shows and produce shows, all based in how do you make play a part of narrative? How do you make story and imagination come to life in worlds?
Well, I would definitely want to go there too, but I wanted to take a sidebar and go deeper into the theater and the education stuff that you talked about, because I think I'm pretty good at managing a one-on-one with the kid, depending on how difficult that child happens to be at the moment. But I can get in their world. I can, get down, have fun, talk to them, do whatever they want to do. But kids in mass, I feel like, are a different thing. So when you're directing a play of a whole bunch of kids, it becomes like herding cats to me. I don't know how you have any sort of control, or how does that differ when you're talking about a classroom full of kids or a stage full of kids? Do you have any advice there, or is it the same tactics?
It's so much of it is the same tactics. You can yell your head off all day and you'll have 32 kids not listen to you, or you can have fun and play and speak their language and use some crazy call and response or dance. I do this dance move, you do that, put on a specific song, they all sing to. There are so many ways to have classroom control and classroom management that all fit in exactly the same modality of just creative thinking, creative play. I mean, when I was teaching, I started teaching when I was 16 and did a lot of arts education and for many, many years. I would always, and now when I train other teachers, I always talk about the fact that my classroom is right on the edge of chaos. It's never actually chaos because I have the power and control to pull it back at any moment, because I have put in place that structure of what play can look like in this format. But at the same time, I want the kids in the room to have the freedom to express themselves, to have the freedom to have those creative moments in collaboration with each other. And that only happens if you allow for that flex and that right there, edge of chaos.
I'm really glad you said that, because it opened it up for me. I used to be a DJ in bars and clubs, and you actually have a lot of energy control of a mass of people there, right? So on St. Patrick's Day, when there's 400 drunk people losing their minds, being able to bring the energy down is important. But obviously, most the time you want to be bringing the energy up and keeping it on the edge of chaos. But what a lot of people don't know that aren't professional DJs is the bar wants you to kill the mood every once in a while. If people are all out dancing, they're not at the bar buying another drink. So you have to manage this energy flow of up and down, and you can't just only play good songs because there's only a certain number of them, right? And at any given time, there's maybe like 5 songs that are popular that people want to dance to. So if you play all 5 of those, you have nowhere to go, right? So you got to kind of play one early to get them excited, and then play some other stuff, and then come back to one, or play like the cha-cha slide or whatever, the electric slide, so that people go, oh, I know this dance, and they come out on the dance floor. And then you got other things. And that all reminded me of what you said with kids, is you got to have some different things in your tool bag, and you need to manage that energy, because they'll get tired, or they'll have too much energy if you don't balance that. And you want to keep that edge that you said, right on the edge of chaos, is a magic spot.
I mean, I would say that 400 drunk bar goers on St. Patrick's Day and 60 elementary school kids doing a musical of Alice in Wonderland are pretty actually comparable in a lot of ways. And what you're describing feels like, I mean, it's using music. It's using that modality to help people, you know, go to the bar and or remember to sit in a circle. I mean, same thing.
And somebody's going to wet their pants. Yes, I agree.
Undoubtedly.
All right, so let's talk about that story and narrative part that you mentioned, because I think that's interesting. For you, is it about expressing your story, and do you have a message you're trying to get across, or do you more enjoy helping other people tell their stories and find their creativity? How does that work for you?
I think it's a both and, actually. I can't create a piece of art without having my own self be a part of it, right? So, and a lot of my message, like my personal message, is around the importance of imagination, connection, empathy, creative flow. Like all of those things are infused in pretty much all the work I do. That being said, I love elevating the voices of other artists and other people, and the collaborative process. My company, Bay Area Children's Theater, specializes in adaptations of children's books. So one of the things that is like amazing is being able to work with an author who is very used to being at their computer alone with all of the characters in their head, and saying, hey, how about we bring those characters to life on stage? And they're going to sing. And people go, wait, what? And it's like the most amazing thing to honor the work of those of authors in that way. My favorite adaptation, I think, I mean, I've done a ton of them, but I did Barney Salzberg's book, Beautiful Oops, which is a picture book about any mistake is an opportunity to make something beautiful. And there's no narrative, like it's not a book with a plot, but we used his art as inspiration and created a show all about letting go of imperfection and creating whatever happens through the process.
That's a great book, by the way. Great shout out to anybody listening that wants to check out that one. And it's come up a couple of times on the podcast here, so that's great. My language for that is failing spectacularly, because I was, again, doing karaoke and dance. And when you see somebody that really gets into it, it doesn't matter if they're a good singer or a good dancer. If they are living it, they are failing spectacularly, and everybody will watch and be entertained. But you can see a really great singer or a really great dancer timidly trying to not embarrass themselves. It falls flat every time. And so I love the message of that book and of the play that you're talking about too. So the question in here is, you talked about the importance of creativity and play and all of that stuff. What is it specifically for you? Have you ever tried to define it or come up with some benefits if you were going to talk logically to an adult about the ROI of play and creativity? What would it be?
Yes, in fact, I would say that I have created a structure to talk about it, because so many parents are looking for, am I doing it right? Well, I'm going to start by saying that one of the reasons that we can use creativity in parenting is to let go of perfection, right? Let's just start there. So there's kind of a little bit of a contradiction here, but I do have some structure. So benefits: letting go of perfection, trust and independence, emotional expression, building tomorrow's thinkers, and happiness through connection. Those are some of the benefits that not just our kid is getting, but we are getting also. And then I also have sort of 5, I think we've already talked about them, 5 ways that you can express yourself: story, movement, music, visual art, and games. To give yourself a starting point. There are 400 million other ways, like, to be clear, but it helps to have a starting point. And so that's what those 5 things represent.
Those are awesome. And then I guess, again, for adults, what would you say, like, the outcomes? I know for me, it's about being creative. It's about being more resilient. I think there's also just, I think in today's world, right, like, if it can be defined, it can be automated. We don't need somebody to be more robotic than a robot. You're not gonna be able to follow directions that well. Humans aren't built for that, right? So for me, you're adding value and resilience to your child if you're teaching them things like listening and being creative and being emotional and recognizing other people's emotions and connecting with other people. That's what computers can't do, right? Is there anything else that comes to mind for you when I say that?
Yeah, we've talked a lot right now in sort of, if I look on the Instagrams and the Pinterests, where I think there's a lot of like rules of parenting and perfect parenting. And I love social media. It's super fun, but let's block a lot of that. It's not helping anybody. But there's a lot of talk right now about the importance of emotional intelligence and, raising children with emotional intelligence, improving your own emotional intelligence. And I want to bring into the world that it can't just be emotional intelligence. Creative intelligence is actually how we're going to get to emotional intelligence, because our creative intelligence is what allows us the flexibility and the freedom to be actually in space with another person, connecting and enjoying ourselves. And when you have that like freedom inside you, that you're like having fun and it doesn't feel like you're taking cough syrup, all of a sudden connecting to another person, empathy, which I do think is critical for our adult population, our kid population, everybody, it just becomes more fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's even been research on that too, right? Like Dr. Stuart Brown and others that say if you're not creative, if you're not playful, you can't see other options. And if you can't see other options, you can't show up with empathy or connect with another person who's different from you, because you can't think of other ways to make those fit. The more more creative ideas, possibilities, and just open thinking that you have, the more ways you can approach people and you can deal with people who are different than you. I think that's a great takeaway here. Once again, we're talking with Nina Meehan. She is a creative parenting expert. Find her at creativeparenting.net. She's also a theater director that we mentioned there and a public speaker. So if you need a creative speaker for your next event, I would say, education, adulting, parenting, and otherwise, check out Nina there as well. Would you like to play a game?
Always.
All right. So on the show here, we have a prize wheel. I'm spinning it now. It has 10 games on there that we could play. And you got 2 truths and a lie. This one's pretty easy. So all we have to do is share 3 things about yourself, fun facts. 2 are true and 1 is a lie. I'll go first and give you time to think about it. So we mentioned public speaking. I've done a ton of public speaking. I might be giving away some of my answers, but here are some fun facts. I have performed over 2,000 times live and behind a microphone. I have made over $2,000 an hour as a public speaker, and I have spoken in more than 2 countries. Which is the lie?
I mean, those all I fully believe all those. Okay. I'm gonna go. Wait, what was the last one? I've performed in more than 2 countries.
2,000 audiences, $2,000 an hour, or more than 2 countries.
I'm going with the first one. 2,000 audiences. Maybe it's like 1,999. I don't know.
No, it's the countries. I haven't traveled that much. I've done a lot of virtual speaking now in COVID, so I've appeared in other countries, but I have not traveled or gotten paid to speak outside the United States. So that's fun.
All right.
And
Well,
then
post COVID, I feel like
year
that
after
sounds like a
COVID.
good goal.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of performing in my 20s. So basically like 3 to 5 shows a week for 10, 12 years. That's a lot. How
Adds
about
up.
you? Do you have any fun facts for us?
I do. All right. My favorite ride at Disneyland is the Cars Land ride. I am a really big fan of roasted cauliflower with Parmesan cheese. And I worked on board a ship pretending to be a sailor at one point in my career.
Oh, since you said pretending, I'm going to say that one is true. Now, the other two feel like odd fun facts because I feel like there are better rides and there are better foods. So I'm going to say the cauliflower is the lie.
That is correct. I don't like cauliflower at all, but it is my sister's favorite food. So there you go.
Wow. Well, everybody has different tastes. That's great. I nailed it though. And it gives me a win. I rarely win these. So I appreciate that.
Maybe
Nina.
your
Thanks
prize
for
needs
playing.
to be a ticket to a foreign country to go do a speaking engagement. I feel like this is obvious.
It'd be great. As soon as it's available, I got to check that one off the list for sure. I was scheduled to speak in London and I got a kidney stone, ended up in the hospital, had surgery with to remove it, and then a stent in my, ureter for like 2 weeks. And I gave it virtually. It was so disappointing. Instead of a trip to London, I got a surgery.
That's not fair. No, not you. Okay, so London needs to be on the list. There it is.
Good. I appreciate that. Any other asks or gives to our audience, how we can help you or you can help us?
I would, if anyone is interested in learning more about creative parenting, I do offer a creative club where we can learn more together. And I also offer one-on-one coaching. So I would love to have folks who are interested come and chat. Otherwise, I think just remember, creativity is going to make the hard moments easier and the routine moments joyful.
I love that. Great way to finish up. Nina Meehan, check her out at ninameehan.com or go to that website. It's creativeparenting.net and check her out there. Also on Instagram, good follows there. For Playful Humans, go to playfulhumans.com. We have that personality quiz where you can find out which type of play resonates with you, which is great. And you can join the club of other playful humans who are trying to gather together and inspire more fun, flow, and fulfillment in our life. Check that out, playfulhumans.com. Until next time, leave us a thumbs up, share, like, comment. Good luck.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine and go out and play.
Go play, everybody.